Hello, Logan and Apps here from Dimp Digital, and we bring you possibly the most important review of the year on Red Dead Redemption 2. Apps, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Bit of pressure on this one, I feel.
Well, there wasn't until you started saying that. Biggest review of the year.
Everyone will be out there with their pitchforks if you say the wrong thing, going, ooh.
That's dull,
that exact
isn't it?
noise. Ooh.
That exact noise. Very dull, according to some Dimp Digital members.
Well, we're still in shock, I think, in Dimp Digital HQ. We won't name who used the word dull, but
could have been me. I might sit here and go 6 out of 10 dull. We don't know what's going to happen.
Well, if it was dull, would it get a 6?
Potentially. Could be. It's a hard one to use that full 10-point scale. But anything anything under a 7, basically, people go, cool. What's wrong with that then? And
lower than a bronze, you go, right.
And you got to explain it then. So we'll see what happens.
Well, here we are anyway. So why don't you give us a little bit of history with your relationship with Rockstar and Red Dead in general?
Yeah, big Rockstar fan. Played all the mainline Grand Theft Auto games, even the 2D top-down ones. Spent a really unhealthy amount of time in GTA 5, not just in the single player, but mainly in that fucking online that we've been playing for 5 years now, on and off.
It's absolute sandbox that you just can't put down.
No, it's literally that long. And then the OG Red Dead Redemption I played back in the day, didn't actually get it on release. I remember it came out the same time as one of the UFC games, and I opted for that only because when I went to game at lunchtime, I said, "Oh, I don't know which one I'm going to get." They went, "Well, we haven't got any Red Dead Redemption left," and I was like, "That's that choice made
That's
for
a
me."
Decision made, yeah.
Yeah, I remember thinking a little bit, maybe I've missed out there, but I didn't play it for a little while. Then I did get round to it, and yeah, liked Red Dead Redemption. I don't think I liked it as much as probably what you did. And
I loved it. Yeah,
I didn't quite have that, but I really wanted to go back and play it. But as with just normal life as well as gaming life, the luxury to go back and replay something of that size is sadly not really there. But yeah, it's been a love relationship pretty much with Rockstar. I've been a big fan of theirs for a long, long time. I think they are, when it comes to some of their design choices, the best in the business, presentation best in the business. So I was really looking forward to Red Dead Redemption 2, and was like everyone else when it was delayed from last year, was eagerly awaiting this fall and a chance to get my hands on Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I can say the same. Really, I think it's when Rockstar release their games and they're so infrequent, I think there's always a bit of a build up to it, an expectation from them.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a rundown of the story then? What set the scene for what Red Dead 2 is all about?
Yeah, so I mean, it's first of all, it's a third person or a first person open world sort of adventure game. So previously, Grand Theft Auto when it came out on Grand Theft Auto 5, sorry, when it came out on PS3 and Xbox 360, was originally just a third person game. When it released onto like a remastered version onto the current gen, they added first person as an option, and Red Dead Redemption 2's launched with that. So that's something that people can delve into and experiment with. But yeah, it's an open world adventure game set in 1899. And that's just as, I guess, the Wild West, as people would refer to it as, is kind of coming to an end for outlaws. They're not quite getting away with things as they were back in the day, and civilization is starting to form and also starting to push back on these sort of renegades that are out there with their gangs and whatnot. You take control of a chap named Arthur Morgan. Now, he's essentially Dutch Van der Linde's right-hand man. If you've played the first Red Dead Redemption, you'll be familiar with Dutch. He's sort of the main guy you're hunting down throughout the game. But at this time period, this is set, 12, 13 years before the original game. So it's a prequel. That's one thing you didn't know when we had our chat the other week. You was a bit shocked by that. But Dutch is the head of this gang, and they're known as either Dutch's gang or the Van der Linde gang. And the game kicks off immediately after sort of like a botched robbery in the town of Blackwater, and the gang is on the run from the law, and the Pinkerton sort of detection agency are after them. essentially Dutch wants to get enough money together so the crew can sort of retire perhaps to greener pastures, and that's really how the game starts, getting them out of this immediate jam, and then over the course of the game you'll start to learn more about the gang members that are there. They've all got their own different motivations and personalities and objectives that they want to fulfill, and as Arthur, he's got his own views on how things should be progressed next and what the gang should do. And it's really, really good stuff. If you're a fan of the first one, there are tons and tons of little nods and Easter eggs for you to pick up, and if you're fresh for the boat, the same thing. There's enough here, enough development within this game on its own for it to be interesting. There's not an expectation that you've got to be overly familiar with the original story. As always, when it's a sequel or prequel, it helps to have this background knowledge. But I don't think it's essential, which is a good trait to have when you're dealing with a numbered game. Arthur himself as a character, and I think he's real top quality, fully fleshed out, up there with God of War's sort of newest game, Kratos, in that sense, like a real fleshed out human being, feels like a genuine person, which is incredibly hard to do. Do not sleep on the story of Red Dead Redemption 2. I think it's one of its strongest points.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't really disagree with any of that. Just out of curiosity, how much did you find yourself playing, if at all, in first person?
A couple of times I went to first person, but I've never really... I just prefer third person. It's a little bit more immersive for me. And third person on a horse, I think I might get motion sick eventually. Like all that jogging up and down, I think it's
the first place I tried it and I went, no, don't need it.
Yeah, not going to do that.
It doesn't add anything. I was of the same opinion when they put it into GTA 5. I sort of went, I felt it was a little bit gimmicky, but I thought I've always kind of had it in my mind that these are third person games in the same way that Nathan Drake is.
in Uncharted.
And I didn't feel the need to do it. I didn't even know you could do it until Adkins piped up. I went, if you tried to shotgun someone in the face with it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, this first person. I went, I was like, how'd you do that then? Didn't even know. Didn't need to know. I just thought it was interesting to see if you'd have done any more with it.
No, not really. I mean, with GTA 5, when they introduced that into the sort of the current gen remaster and the PC port, I think I actually went through the whole game in first person that time because it was completely new, and I was like, well, I wonder how this performs under this sort of scrutiny. And it was fine, but really difficult to drive and shoot, which is something that in GTA you've got to do a fair amount. And in Red Dead Redemption 2, whilst you're riding and shooting, I can imagine that being a real pain in the backside. So I just went with whatever's most comfortable. I've got the option in the game to sort of put new costumes on Arthur, style his hair, cut it, beard trim, all that good stuff. So why would I not take advantage of this lovely third-person mode so I can see the fruits of my labour?
I'll never see it. Oh, I've got a lovely haircut that I'll never see. The
one thing you'll like is if you walk past a mirror, you'll notice she's got a reflection in there. So
they've gone to those sort of efforts, which sort of pings us into the next topic, which is presentation and performance and what the graphic and art style's like.
Yeah, it's... For an open world game, I think it's incredible what Rockstar have done here. It's fucking amazing how good it looks. There are far more linear games and games with smaller scope on big budgets as well that still aren't in the same league of what Red Dead Redemption 2's done in an open world environment. Like when it comes to visuals and presentation, marvellous achievement for an open world game. And to top it all off, they've got a living, breathing kind of animal ecosystem, NPCs that are populating towns, all behaving as you'd expect, and probably surprising you in how they interact with one another and with you. So, performance and presentation is top notch. Didn't have any crashes or any real frame rate drops, and the game looks gorgeous. I've been playing it on the Xbox One X on a 4K telly, so that's probably heightened it, but it really does look amazing. I'd be interested to know what you thought of it, because you're playing it on sort of stock Xbox One and a 1080p screen, whether you still have the same kind of awe that I do.
Yeah, I'm probably playing it on the worst possible combination for sort of viewing pleasure, I think. I don't think it can get worse. And I mean, my TV is probably about, 6 or 7 years old?
Yeah.
And yeah, I got the Xbox One when it first came out in 2014. So it is stock basic. And my thoughts were, I didn't think I was ever going to see a game this beautiful on this gen. on console. I genuinely, and I mean that in the sense of I don't look at it in terms of, like you've mentioned, in the grand scheme of things that are going on as well. Just taking all that aside, just the detail that stunned me at first was the detail on the horses.
Yeah.
Like, and not just when you're up close, but when you're riding, the muscle movements, like everything.
Yeah.
From the shading, everything is just top quality. I really do. I can't. I'm a little bit jealous that I haven't got a 1X and playing it on 4K or something, because I think it would just astound me.
It's really, like, the attention to the detail is definitely the highlight in that area. Things like, if you fall off your horse or you fall into the mud, like Arthur's clothes will get dirty.
Yeah.
In the area you kind of fell off, it's not like a little like mud texture. It feels like, I actually saw his back land flat in that mud and now his back's filthy.
Yeah.
You can go and wash that off in the water, or you can just sort of leave yourself walking around mud. Same if you've like hunted an animal and skinned it and put it over your shoulder, blood sort of seeps onto his jacket or his top where it was, and there's all these little details and nods that you just don't see in other games. And
it's the attention to detail. And just to add another point, one thing that amazed me is there's so many games, like you just go around in GTA mindlessly killing and go like, and there's no nod to what you might have just done. Whereas, as you say, if you go off on a murder spree or kill some animals and you've got a load of blood on you, you go back to camp and they go, Arthur, sort yourself out. You look a state, you got blood all down you, get changed. And it's just like loads of little things like that. You just go, it's such a minor thing to point out because you think that's not a big thing at all, but there's so many of these minor things, I think, which add up to just one big attention to detail button that they've definitely pressed. Yeah,
it's really mind blowing, some of the details they've included, and it's that level is just, it's brilliant. The looks of the game and its performance, it really is an astounding what they've done.
A bit dull though. Let's move on. So what's the game structure then? I think we've probably got a good picture of that, but do you level Arthur up, and did you find it hard or too easy? What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think difficulty-wise, there's only one difficulty level, the game's stock difficulty level. I don't think it's a particularly challenging game. Some bits we might come on to later around the cover mechanics, and some of the controls might make it a bit harder than it needs to be. But in general, well paced in that sense. And yeah, it's an open world game, so you've got complete kind of free reign about what activities you do and undertake, and when you do those. So you're kind of primarily based within the gang's camp. So there's like a camp that's set up in the wilderness where there's tents set up, fire, there's somewhere to, hand in your meat or whatever. There's different like little bits and pieces there. And you can like spend time in the camp, perhaps talking to the gang, getting to know people. You can carry out chores around the camp, maybe pick up little odd jobs for certain members. You can upgrade the camp so that when you bring some meat back, that it's goes a little bit further than it was before. You can donate money, donate food, and all this stuff that I'm talking about. Some people are like, well, hang on, why am I doing all that? There's Wild Westing to be getting on with. It's all optional. So you don't have to do any of that, but if you want to play that role, you can. And there's like small little bonuses for doing that. But the key thing for me is that I think's going to open it up to a lot more people than perhaps it would have done, is there's no requirement for you to do these activities, which I think was a smart move, because I could see some developers saying, okay, we've created all these systems for the camp. Now, if you don't keep the camp happy, you can't progress with the main story. Fortunately, in Red Dead Redemption, they don't go down that route. So that's, in my point, a good thing about all that optional stuff. It's just adding an extra layer of authenticity to the world that you're playing in. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. If you don't do it, you're not going to get punished. So you haven't got to really worry about that. You've got things like side quests. You've got companion quests. You've got stranger missions. You've got legendary animals to hunt. You've got bounties. You've got catching legendary fish. You've got gambling, stagecoach robbing, train robbing, challenges, random encounters, gangs to deal with. There's more, but what I'm trying to collectibles, absolutely. There's a lot more than this, but I'm just trying to articulate sort of how much there is to see and do in Red Dead Redemption 2. Again, no good at being there if it is no good, but I found the majority, if not all of this stuff, interesting to at least delve into for a little bit and experiment with. There's just so much stuff to get lost in. It's really an impressive sort of haul of diverse and interesting activities. If you do go off the beaten path, you'll most likely be rewarded with something random that might get you snarled up in for the next half hour or so. And the thing I think I love most about Red Dead Redemption 2 is it really allows you as a player to sort of exist and role play within the world, and that's something that's I really have enjoyed doing. It's just being Arthur in the world, doing things that I feel like my Arthur would be doing, going off from camp for 2 days just to go and hunt some animals or build up some funds, and then coming back and returning and sharing that with the gang, things like that. No requirement to do it, but I just felt like I wanted to do that, and the game allows you to do it. And we've not even mentioned the main story missions. Typically with a Rockstar game, these are the key big highlights, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed with what they offer here in Red Dead Redemption 2 either. Very rarely you're doing the same thing twice. There's just so much variety and imagination that makes them superb to play through.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. And I think one thing that's astounded me with this game is I almost feel like they've put as much attention to detail into all the side bits and bobs as they have into the main storyline.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I find it's easy in these games to look at the side quests and just think, it's just add on to it, But I like to do them because they give you another perspective on the world that they want you to see. Like
they're interested, aren't they? They're well thought out. They're not just filler to like in many quests and other side quests in open world games, which are just there to fill the time and help you level up if you need to do that. Obviously, in this case, we don't have to worry about leveling Arthur up. Naturally, your skills do develop over time, but you don't have like Arthur's at level 1, now he's at level 5. None of that bollocks to worry about. It's just natural progression. Like you get more stamina, you get more Deadeye, whatever it might be. So, yeah, all the side stuff and the activities outside the main story are brilliant.
Yeah, I would second that. So how did you find the game to play? I know that's generally a broad question, but I think we've already briefly touched on the cover mechanics. How did you get on with it, and what did you like and what didn't you like perhaps as much?
Yeah, I think the combat's not the best in class, certainly. Like I mentioned the cover mechanic earlier, I think that is a little bit too inconsistent at times. But I don't know, when you're in those big, intense firefights, despite some of the wrestling I like to do on occasions, it's still brilliant. It still feels satisfying. There's this wonderful kill cam they've kind of introduced that if you kill someone from range or from a certain distance, I don't know what the trigger is, but what
blow
it'll do,
in the head, I think, isn't it?
It might be headshots and critical kills. It then slows down and does a close up of that victim, sort of slowly falling back. Sometimes it then cut back to Arthur, who's sort of still holding the guns, and his face is grimacing as you're firing these bullets in slow motion. That really adds an extra layer of presentation on it. Deadeye is back and as brilliant as ever. But it's not breaking down any barriers, I don't think, which is perfectly okay, but don't expect this to be like a revelation in cover gaming. They could have done a better job, I think, with the cover part of the things, but generally, if you've played and enjoyed GTA 5's combat, very similar to Red Dead Redemption 2's, just that the cover items, because they're rocks and not buildings and flat surfaces, sometimes it feels like it doesn't quite know what to do, but it never got me killed, which I suppose is a good thing. That's when it becomes an issue, is when you die because the cover mechanic fucks you over. I'm sure there's people out there that will play this and go, hang on a minute, I've been killed because I ain't got in that cover, because I still think it is a little bit loose, but it's not the completely perfect game. No game is. Movement outside of combat is fine. I quite like the deliberate pace of it, and some people would call it slow, but I like this slow nature of the game. I can totally see why people again might find it too slow for their liking, whether it's the movement of the character just getting Arthur around, or whether it's even the story. Sometimes the story moments move perhaps at a little bit of a slow pace, but I really enjoyed that particular aspect of it. I think it let the whole environment atmosphere sort of marinate, but they've introduced things like very light touch survival mechanics as well, so health, stamina, and Deadeye, the core, so that's like your overall, I guess, kind of section on it, that will slowly deplete over time. If you eat or cook food and eat it, then that will increase it. If you sleep, that will restore these also. You can craft tonics or cook certain special foods that will buff each of these or fortify them. And I know what people are thinking. They're like, oh, hang on a minute, that sounds like it's a little bit overly complicated. It's not really, in my opinion. These are very light mechanics that just kind of add an extra consideration to look at now and again. You won't just drop dead, for example, if you stop eating. Like, he's not going to just go, ugh, and die. So you don't need to worry too much about that. And the other thing I think is good that they've introduced in terms of like a mechanic is the bond that you kind of build with your horse. So you can name your horse after you've bought it or got it from the wild, or it's been given to you. Over time, your bond increases with the horse, and as part of that, the stats increase. So their stamina might increase, their speed might increase slightly. And I think just giving you the option to name the horse gives you that connection to the animal, which means if you do end up getting it killed, it's a real stinker to
replace,
to deal with, because you're not just replacing a vehicle, you're replacing almost like a secondary character that you've been riding with for hours. So it can lead to some tragic moments if you're not careful.
I can second that, to the point where I can upgrade my horse, but I can't. If that makes sense. So there's a lot of good stuff they've done. Sometimes I was sort of dreading getting into big gun battles at times, because I just think, I've got to deal with that cover mechanic and the running around. It's very like rigid. I think that's the only way to sort of say it, is that if you can really get caught out. But the battles and the gunplay and everything are quite forgiving, I think. There's a lot of... It's not like if you poke your head up out once, you'll get shot and die. Like it is quite forgiving. But I had a couple of times when I thought I was out of cover, and I've sort of leant up to shoot, and somehow the gun, like the reticle's out of cover, but the gun isn't. Yeah. So you're just shooting and it just hits something, and I was like, for fuck's sake.
Get a hand on it and get it.
Yeah, but I'd probably second that. As I say, I think it's pretty good. The momentum, I think, that they've put into the movement is good. So as I say, there's a lot of, if you got the horse or whatever, and you bash someone, then he's going to go flying and things like that. Like, I think they've got that quite right.
All the physics in like, I think it's the Rage engine it's called, is I've always enjoyed like the ragdolling and the way things interact with each other. Like if someone gets bucked off a horse, they kind of fall and react as though you'd expect a real person how they would if they had been bucked off a horse. It's not like this weird sort of stiff wooden animation. It's all very fluid and it's the same as when you shoot someone, the way they kind of fall backwards and die. That's all really nice. And yeah, it has its trade-offs in that sometimes Arthur might seem like a bit of a bumbling idiot, but you'll soon get over that once you start blowing heads off with shotguns.
Yeah, you soon forget it.
Yeah.
Before we move on to your closing thoughts and the verdict, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you would like to mention to our fan base?
Yeah, I guess it's just the immersion factor of this game. Like, just it's one of the top tier games at doing that. If you want it to be like, just being in this world and feeling like you're part of it, rather than kind of playing a video game. You know, I've spent, what did I spend in the end? I think 120 hours overall I've put into this since release. Don't worry, not all of that story. That's a lot of that's me doing this role playing immersion thing where I was just wandering around. I said that at one point I got to a stage where a horse I'd had for ages, you know, he had a few close calls, and I thought, you know what, he doesn't really deserve this sort of life. He's getting dragged into all these firefights. I'm like hitting rocks and trees now and again. He's getting damage. I just thought, I couldn't bear to see him die at my hands if I do something reckless or drag him into a mission where I can't quite get him out of. So I released him into the wild and got rid of him. Like, told him to flee off, and it was a sad moment for me to see him run off. But I just felt the right thing to do, and the game lets you do that. So I was happy that he's now in my mind somewhere out there in the wild, hopefully enjoying life, and you know, along with other kinds. But
that brain of yours.
That's just one example. Oh, that's the thing. This game really does let the brain sort of make up its own little stories.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it lets you immerse yourself into it. Like, we was talking to, you know, some of the Dimp guys earlier, and one of them saying, Chappers goes, I'm basically a virtual fisherman. He's out fishing day and night. He's enjoying that part of it, and I'm sure there's people that are out there who are just going to hunt. They're just going to hunt for the big trophies. They're going to hunt all the legendary animals and really soak themselves up into that activity. And you can do that with a number of different roles you can take. You could become a complete bandit in this game if you want, and there's like a morality system that will change depending on your actions. So the more sort of quote unquote bad stuff you do, that'll move your needle down, and you can embrace that character and start robbing more people or killing innocents and going down that path, or you can slowly work towards being a good guy. But there's a lot to do in here, and just that you can really if you just let the game immerse you into it, enjoy what it has to offer, and take your time with it.
Yeah, well, I'd completely second that. We haven't mentioned about how you can interact with NPCs and how it can affect your and all that sort of stuff. There's so much to talk about.
You can greet NPCs like in a polite manner, and they might say howdy or something back, or you can antagonise them.
All of them as well. I don't think there's one that I come across which you can't interact with at all.
Yeah, there's some real hostile bastards out in this world, though.
Yeah,
I've noticed. So I got myself in a few scrapes that I shouldn't have done, and one of the only thing I kind of think is a little bit over the top is the bounty system. Like when you commit a crime and it's witnessed by someone and reported to the law, and you're identified as Arthur, you then get a bounty put on you, and it starts off fine, so it's like $5, and you're like, well, I can stomach that. But as soon as you get involved in like a firefight with the law, I've walked out of like a town with like $300 bounty on my head, and I think, hang on, that's fortunes. All just because I wanted to. Some geezer come up to me and started mouthing off, so I knocked him out and got grassed on. It just escalates, and I feel like there's no way of getting rid of that unless you go and hand yourself in and get arrested, which is pot luck because sometimes they'll just shoot you anyway, or you pay off the entire bounty yourself, which might financially cripple you.
Just quickly, literally just before we got on here, I had a moment with the bounty system where I was running down the pavement, and someone walked out of a door, and I clattered into him. Knocked him on the
slowly,
floor.
Mate. You don't go around towns in real life like that, do you?
Right? And then someone saw it, and there was a witness to this crime.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like,
assault.
And I was like, he just walked out of a door and I ran into him. That's not an assault. I mean, if you're doing it by the letter of the law, it is. But I was like, all right, okay. And then I've sort of started running after this bastard. And telling him to stop, and then I clattered him. I shit you not. And then I sort of got this one to stop. He agreed because I threatened him to stop. And then this other one ran off, and I went down an alley, clonked him in the back of the head, and a lawman saw me.
Oh no, that's it.
And I was like, literally. And then honestly, I was just like, I had everyone on me in seconds, so I just started running away. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll lose them in the water. I got into the water because I thought I'll get over the other side. They're not going to follow me there. Started swimming through the water. Got bit by a bloody alligator. Killed me.
That's how quickly it can unfold.
And that's literally. And I just thought, I've done nothing wrong there. And that is how quickly the game can let it unfold for you. 1 minute, you're just running down the street. The next minute, you're getting shot at by lawmen and getting your head bit off by an alligator.
Yeah,
there you go. That's Red Dead Redemption 2 for you.
That's how quickly Arthur's story can end in tragedy if you're not careful about what you're doing.
Anyway, we'll move on to your closing thoughts. So, summarise your sort of general feelings towards Red Dead Redemption 2. I get there's a feeling that you're a little bit sad that it's all over.
Well,
or not?
I've done all the story. That's 100%. I think my overall progression is 89%, so there's still a little bit to do. I've been toying with the idea of going back and making perhaps different choices. There's a couple of moments in the game where you can make different choices and perhaps embracing a much more of a bandit mentality, which will let you off the reins a little bit. But yeah, it's obviously a little bit sad to be over, but it's also nice to have sort of my life back. Rather than
120 hours is a lot of investment.
Rather than being consumed by this video game. But I've enjoyed every moment of it. Like, it came with big hype. It came with big expectation. And Rockstar deliver again. Easily slides its way into the Game of the Year conversations. a very free and liberating experience that leans into sort of survival, morality at a very deliberate pace. So, breakneck this game at your peril. You'll be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice, but I stand by the fact that if you did breakneck this and just done the story, you'd still be reasonably satisfied with it. But you'll get the most out of the game if you can sort of stand back, slowly walk into Red Dead Redemption 2 and soak up what's here for you. It really is a fantastic game.
There you go. Which eases us generally into the direction of the official grading. I think I know where I want to see this. Hopefully our viewers are thinking the same thing, and our listeners. Where do you put it?
I've just enjoyed it so much. It's been such a great game to play through. So I have to give it 10 out of 10 platinum. I think it's fucking fantastic, Red Dead Redemption 2. And I look forward to turning it on perhaps late this evening to carry on and do some more side activities and going back onto it. So, brilliant game.
There you go. I don't think there's much more to say. That's where I wanted to see it. Hopefully everyone other than those that called it dull at times see it there as well. So I think I've done well only to get that dig in 3 times more than...
Yeah, it's not bad. Once every kind of 10 minutes on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Not bad at all. I did want to ask you how you're finding the prequel side of things. Obviously, without spoiling it for the viewers, because you wasn't aware of that.
No.
And is that working to its favour, or is it a little bit jarring that you're not playing as Mr. Marston or his son or whatever it is from the first one? You're sort of going backwards in time.
I think it's interesting to see what. I think the one thing that Red Dead Redemption never did was explain to you properly why things were the way they were.
Yeah.
So obviously, I haven't actually finished the game yet. You have, but I'm kind of hoping that leads up to it, or maybe it does in a way. But I think the greatest credit to it in a way is that I don't actually see it as a prequel. I just see it as a game,
a self-contained. Yeah.
It's a self-contained game. John Marston's in it. You do missions with John, but. Yeah. Other than that, there's no real connection that I can see at the moment between the two. So I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed playing with Arthur. I think it's nice that I don't have any preconceptions about Arthur. He's not. Yeah. He's not mentioned at all. So yeah, I really like it. And at no point have I gone would have preferred that sequel, because I don't actually think I would, to be honest now.
No, that story's been told, isn't it? That arc from Red Dead Redemption OG, what happened in that game and how it all boiled out and ended up is, that's pretty much all over with now. So I think you're right. Like, it's interesting to go back and see potentially what's happened or happening to the gang and meet some of the people, that are in the gang and get to know them a little bit more.
It'd be interesting if they did a Red Dead remaster, sort of an original Red Dead remaster after this. I don't see that as Rockstar's style, though. No. But it'd be interesting if they did that, and I'd like to go back and play it again and see how that affects my view of playing Red Dead.
Yeah, I think that would be again. I'd like that for that to happen. Maybe if they used all the mechanics that they've got in 2 and put those into 1, that'd be really cool. But yeah, that would be interesting to do. I've got Red Dead 1 on backwards compatibility, so there's no reason why I can't just fire that up and roll through that and see what's happening. But it's that thing of going to play a game that's 8 years old, and then after you've just played the sequel that's been put on a new generation of consoles and can do a lot more. It'll be tricky, but if I think with enough separation, I could do it. I kind of want to do it as well.
Yeah, I saw before I started playing Red Dead 2, I did watch a comparison or a story summary, and you can tell it's dated, which isn't unfair because it is. It'd be really hard to play it. I think I don't even know if backward compatibility would do it justice. I think it's like all things. I saw bloody Ridge Racer the other day, and I used to love that, and it just looks like a load of polygons. So difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be.
Anyway, let's tie this up. Thanks for your time, Apps, and thanks for the in-depth review. Hopefully, our listeners Really enjoyed it. So thanks for your time, and ta-da.